Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Huda binti Abdul Rahman. Question given to our group is based on online final test June 2020 Part C Question 1. Excellent Berhad, an information and communication technology company, decided to enhance its internal audit function. Its board of directors approached KPKG, a reputable external consultant, to help with this exercise. One of KPKG's staff, Salina, explained that internal audit is important no matter what industry a company is in. Salina was keen to talk to Datuk Kamil, who is the head of the audit committee and the chairman of the board. Datuk Kamil explained that since Excellent Berhad was an ICT company, he considered it is important that all members of the audit committee must be professional IT engineer in order for them to fully understand the industry and its technical challenges. All 4 members of the audit committee were non-independent, non-executive directors, and all were recently retired members of Excellent Berhad's management board. When Salina asked about the relationship with the external auditors, Datuk Kamil said that they had an excellent relationship, adding that this was because one of the external auditor partners was the chief executive officer's son. In the previous year, the audit committee members met once with the external auditors. Salina's opinion is that effective internal control is essential for maintaining the integrity of financial reporting, and the enhancement of the internal audit function would ensure the betterment of the company. Based on the case study, our group is required to answer question A and question B. Question A mentioned, criticize how Excellent Berhad Audit Committee has failed to meet the regulation and best practices of corporate governance. So, the first issue or criticism on how Excellent Berhad Audit Committee has failed to meet the regulations and best practices of corporate governance is holding the position of chairman in the board and the audit committee at the same time. Before we start in explaining the criticism, I would like to clarify a little bit regarding the audit committee, whereby according to MCCG 2021, an effective audit committee will provide transparency, focus and independent judgment that is needed in order to oversee the financial reporting process. However, the responsibility for a company's financial reporting process will be held by the board. In addition to that, MCCG 2021 also listed out 3 key principles of good corporate governance, which are: first, board leadership and effectiveness; second, effective audit and risk management and integrity in corporate reporting; and lastly, meaningful relationship with stakeholders. Based on the issue, we can see in Principle B, Practice 9.1 of MCCG 2021, Chairman of the Audit Committee cannot be the Chairman of the Board. However, the problem that we can see in this case study is that Datuk Kamil is the head of the audit committee as well chairman of the board in Excellent Berhad, which proves that Datuk Kamil is holding the chairman position of both audit committee and the board. Why this has become an issue? Because holding the same position of chairman of audit committee and chairman of the board will cause possibility of self-reviewing and bias in making decision, which this will increase the chances of violating and oversee the financial reporting process objectively. This has also been mentioned by Securities Commission Malaysia, whereby chairman of the board should not be involved with the committees to ensure that there are checks and balances as well as objective reviews by the board. You can see a good example for this issue where in BlackRock's voting guideline, the company will prefer for the chairman not to chair the board committees, and if there is any corporate governance issue like holding of the board and chairman of the committees, BlackRock will consider voting against the re-election of the chairman. Even though we can use the solution made by BlackRock, which is voting against the re-election of chairman, our group came out with solution whereby before the management of the board approves in audit committee's board composition, the board must first check and investigate beforehand to ensure that there is no bias and repetitive in choosing the chairman position in the board and the audit committee.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Nur Hidayatul Eminadia. Moving on to the second issue, which is all of the audit committee members of Excellent Berhad were non-independent and non-executive directors. So first and foremost, we must identify the compositions of the audit committee. By referring to the Bursa Malaysia Listing Requirement 15.09, it stated that the Audit Committee must be composed of not fewer than 3 members, and all of the Audit Committee members must be non-executive directors, with the majority of them being independent directors. Meanwhile, if we're looking at the MCCG 2021 Practice 9.4 under the Principle B, it also stated that the Audit Committee should comprise solely of the independent directors. If you look at the Practice Note 13 from Bursa Malaysia Security Berhad, it's defined independent director as a director who is free from any business or other relationship which could interfere with the exercise of the independent judgment or his ability to act in the best interest of the company. And the example of the independent director is he is not an executive director of the applicant, listed issue or any related corporation, and he is not and has not been within the last 3 years an officer of the state corporation. So what is the relevancy of having the majority independent director in the audit committees? So there is a prominent research performed by the Bronson et al. Highlighted that having a fully independent audit committee will more likely lead to the objective support for the external auditor, and it can mitigate the pressure from the management relating to the ongoing concern reporting decision. We can see that the problem is the External Berhad Audit Committee has failed to meet the regulations and the best practice of the corporate governance because they didn't comply with the regulations that has been set up by the Bursa Malaysia Listing Requirement and also the MCCG 2021 that required the committee to have the majority of them being the independent directors. So in order to create a conducive environment for the insightful deliberations of the audit committee, the board should ensure that the enlisted independent audit committee members are financially literate and have the sufficient understanding of the company's business. Besides, Datuk Kamil, who was the head of the audit committee, also hold the responsibility to ensure that at least 3/4 of its audit committee members were independent non-executive directors. A problem also arises when there is a close relationship between Datuk Kamil and the external auditor partner who was the chief executive officer's son. First and foremost, we must identify what is the role of the internal audit. If we refer to the MCCG 2021 Practice 11.2 under the Principle B, it stated that the board should disclose whether the internal audit personnel are free from any relationship that could result to the conflict of interest, and it can impair their objectivity and independence. And if we refer to the paragraph 15.12 of the listing requirements, it's also stated that the audit committee must carry out the following, such as with the external auditor, the audit plan, or with the external auditor, his evaluations of the system of internal controls, or with the external auditor, his audit report, and the audit committee must report the same to the board. So what is the relationship between the internal audit and the external audit? If you look at the internal auditing guidelines 2005, it stated that both of the audit, they aim to have to achieve the mutual recognitions and respect, and this can lead to the joint improvement in their performance, and they want to avoid any unnecessary overlapping of work. So since the internal audit evaluates an organization's internal control system, so the external auditor, they may need to be satisfied with the internal audit that the audit functions is being planned and performed effectively. So there is an example of case of Roger Yuan Tan and Associate, who is the audit firm for the United ULI Berhad. So the audit firm, they make a misleading statement in relation to the audited financial result for the financial year ended 31 December 2004. Thus, the firm was imposed with the hefty fine and was sentenced to a year of imprisonment. So if we refer back to the current situations, the actions of the board who appoints its external audit that has a close relationship with Datuk Kamil may lead the external auditor to give an unfair review of the company's performance, since there is an existence of the personal interest between the both parties. So the solution is the board should appoint another external auditor that has no close relationship with Datuk Kamil, or they need to avoid any connection with the interested parties that can lead to the conflict of interest, since the external auditor should be independent toward the client company. so that the audit opinion will not be influenced by the relationship between the auditor and also the company.
Assalamualaikum, my name is Amira binti Ibrahim, so I will continue on answering question A. For the last issue that our group could determine from this case study is where all audit committee members of Excellent Berhad came from IT professional background because the organisation itself is an information and communication technology ICT company. The right practice for audit committee of the organisation as stipulated under Bursa Malaysia Listing Requirements 15.09C, at least one of the members of audit committee is a member of Malaysian Institute of Accountant MIA. Nevertheless, if there is no member of Malaysian Institute of Accountant MIA in the committee, at least there is somebody who obtained 3 years of working experience and passed examination that are specified in Part 1 of First Schedule of Accountant Act 1967. Some examination listed in the Act are final examination of the University of Malaya for Diploma in Accounting, final examination of the University Kebangsaan Malaysia for degree of Bachelor of Accounting, and final examination of the University Technology Mara for the degree of Bachelor of Accounting. Furthermore, the member also should be the member of one association of accountants stated in Part 2 of First Schedule of Accountant Act 1967. Some examples like Malaysian Association of Certified Public Accountants, Institute of Chartered Accountants of Scotland, Institute of Chartered Accountants in England and Wales, and lastly, Institute of Chartered Accountants in Ireland. What if the committee could not fulfill any previous requirement as I mentioned just now? What they can do, the committee can achieve all other conditions imposed or authorized by the Bursa Malaysia. In referring to this case study, we try to find a simple example under Mrs. Berhad. There are 5 members in Audit Committee of Mrs. Berhad and 2 of them are in Professional of Accounting, which are Raja Tan Sri Datuk Seri Arsyad bin Raja Tun Uda, a fellow of the Institute of Chartered Accountants in England and Wales, not to forget Robert Allen Nelson, a fellow of CPA Australia. Therefore, the company had achieved Bursa Malaysia listing requirement under paragraph 50.0C. In this case study, it is a wise decision to employ experts with an IT experience who are familiar with the nature of organization industry and can solve issues more effectively. However, financial literacy could occur among the audit committee members. Plus, the member also will have low understanding about how to enact accounting decision. Audit Committee of Excellent Berhad is considered failed to comply with corporate governance practice because none of the members had background in accounting as required in Bursa Malaysian listing requirement. It is contradicting with corporate governance practice and will cause a problem in assisting auditing process for Excellent Berhad. As cited in Al-Rasas and Kamran in 2015, financial expertise is critical for audit committee credibility in improving the standards of financial statement. Audit Committee of Excellent Berhad should consist of members who obtain a professional background in accounting and has a good financial literacy. In conclusion, there are several issues within Audit Committee of Excellent Berhad. In Principle B, where effective audit and risk management is focused in Malaysian Corporate Governance MCCG 2021 and Bursa Malaysian listing requirements are necessary to align organisation in the best practice. Besides, Audit Committee plays a vital component in an organisation governance system. If the committee fails to comply with required practice even with the smallest details, the corporate governance of Excellent Berhad might collapse. Hence, the Board of Directors of Excellent Berhad ought to revise the composition of Audit Committee. Thank you.
Assalamualaikum IB to Madam and everyone. My name is Fatin Amira binti Muhammad Saufi. I will explain the next question. Question B, where the question is discuss any 2 rules of Audit Committee towards internal audit function. The 2 roles of Audit Committee to be focused is review of internal control system and monitor integrity of financial statement. Role of Audit Committee towards internal audit function is to review of internal control system of the company. The internal auditors is responsible to ensure that the financial statement is not being manipulated or fraud, where the financial statement must be prepared accordingly. The internal control system is become more important in light of current economic downturn, especially during this pandemic COVID-19, where most of the companies need to prepare the financial statement of their business during this stress moment. The continuous evaluation are used to monitor and assist internal controls across various functions to ensure that the implemented of internal control system is as effective as the board of directors intended. Thus, it is very important for the audit committee to review the internal control system, as the assessment make it easier to identify internal control flaws and take corrective action whereby any improvement in audit can be made. In order to ensure the internal control system is effective, therefore, the policy must be established. It is very important for the audit committee to know their responsibility in ensuring the process of reviewing the internal control system is effective by creating the policy, such as first, the company may create the policy and procedure including among others, which is organization structure, job description, and authorization metrics. Next, performance monitoring and control procedure is very important, whereby the company can make the improvement from time to time. Safeguarding asset completeness and accuracy also very important in auditing process. Thus, audit committee needs to create the policy toward the safeguard. Independent internal audit function in ensuring the operation is very smooth is very important in order to review the internal control system. What are the benefits of internal control review? So we will discuss 4 benefits of internal control review. The first one is effectiveness and efficiency of operation. The auditing can meet the regulation and best practice of corporate governance. Next, reliability of financial reportings. In order to ensure the financial report is prepared properly, whereby there is no fraud and manipulating of financial statement, the review must be made. Next, compliance with applicable law and regulation. The review of internal control system will comply with law and regulation. Lastly, detection and prevention error and irregular in timely manner. In preparing the financial statement audit, it can be improved from time to time. Therefore, it is very important to do the review in internal control system. We will look to the example. For being example, as we can see in Big 4 company, KPMG's internal audit division is focused on supporting the leadership agenda in achieving the overall corporate objective, while maintaining the independent and value voice in assisting both the audit committees and management, whereby it can balance the governance and corporate growth of the company. So KPMG is one of the example of Big 4 accounting company, where we can look at the KPMG strategic performance review of internal audit, where it's focused in quality-based assessment, whereby position, people, and process. Next, contract compliance, which is software license review, or we call it as compliance assessment, and also software assist management, which is SAM. So KPMG member firms are located in key financial and commercial center and developed markets. They have a dynamic presence in the emerging economies of Central, which is Europe, Russia, Latin America, India, China, and other parts of Asia. So these resources offer their client a rich supply of information, contact, and business opportunity. Therefore, the strategic performance review of internal audit by KPMG is very effective, so it can be one of the best examples.
Moving on to the second rules of internal auditor. So, the next rules is based on the integrity of financial statement. Internal auditor is a part of audit committee, as we know that internal audit have historically been aligned with accounting and financial reporting audit of the organization. Internal audit and audit committee is responsible to provide oversight of the financial reporting process and the audit process, which is compliance with law and regulation. Moving forward on why internal auditors are really important in monitoring
integrity of financial statement. As we can see, the main function of the rules of internal auditor on financial statement is to avoid any unlawful behavior in the organization. Next, in making sure that the statement consists of a true statement of the company and does not have any fraudulent statement regarding their transactions of the organization. And to make sure that the information have been interpreted are accurate and reliable, so in auditing the financial statement can help the organization to understand and know exactly whether the statement financial is reliable and accurate according to transaction made throughout the year. In addition, internal auditor are responsible to oversee the work of the organization, whether the decision made by the management have improved the performance of the organization. Last but not least, internal auditor also provide management with the tools necessary to attain operational efficiency by identifying problems and correcting any lapses before they are discovered by the external auditor. So, for instance, let us look in more in details about Digi Telecommunication Sdn Berhad. So, for instance, Digi Telecommunication have appointed an auditor, internal auditor, for their financial statement in order to design, implement and maintain internal control relevant to the preparation and fair presentation of financial statement from material which is misstatement or whether due to fraud or error. So, why this kind of thing is really important? It is really important since they need to discover whether it is applicable for according to financial reporting standard in Malaysia, where the organization have been followed or not. Next is to adopt a suitable accounting principle, which is that are reasonable with the circumstances. And also, the internal auditor are really important in order to make judgment based on their financial statement. Digi Telecommunication Sdn Berhad are really important to have internal auditor since it's responsible for ensuring that Digi keeps proper accounting record which disclose with reasonable accuracy the financial statement position of Digi that are enabled and ensure that the financial statement comply with the Companies Act and to oversee of its financial reporting. Furthermore, the importance of internal auditor help for safeguarding the Digi asset and taking reasonable steps to prevent and detect any fraud or other irregularities happen in their transaction.